you're a fan of wrestling games, chances are you've probably at one time or another encountered a game produced and designed by the Aki Corporation. They're well known for their work on the N64 for games like WCW vs. NWO, Revenge, or WWE No Mercy, that kind of stuff. After the N64 died out, they kind of went away for a while, but this year they released actually 2 new games. The first was Def Jam Vendetta, which was wrestling game based on hip-hop. The newest game they're doing is published by Bandai. It's based on the Ultimate Muscle cartoon series that currently airs on the Fox network. The show basically chronicles the tales of these really insane anime-inspired characters who are wrestlers in like this intergalactic wrestling federation called the Muscle League. It's all really crazy and Japanese, and it's a lot like Dragon Ball Z, only like, if Vince McMahon were running the show. So it's the basic idea of the whole thing. If you ever played any of the Aki wrestling games before, you'll find some pretty notable differences in the way Ultimate Muscle plays comparatively. You'll still have the basic weak and strong striking and grappling buttons, but instead of standard hammer throws and top rope maneuvers, the way it's set up is in such a way as to where it's all done with strikes. So you'll grapple a guy and then hit the strike button, and that will throw him off the ropes instead of just throwing him like normal. And instead of climbing up on the turnbuckle and doing crazy moves, there's a jump button in which you will use to jump up, just either into the air and do a move, or you can jump onto the ropes, gain more air and do a stronger move. Or you can hit that with the grapple button, and that'll throw the guy up into the air, and you can attack him as he's coming down, either with a crazy power bomb or something like that. The whole feel of the game is really cartoon-inspired, very over-the-top action, not really much. In fact, there is nothing in the way of sim-based wrestling in this game. All the moves, all the basic moves have been lifted from other Aki games, animations-wise, but it's there's a special system that's completely been redesigned for this game that is a 3-based level system. All the special moves can be done by pressing either the R or the L triggers in conjunction, and basically there's a special strike, there's a special grapple move, and then there's also an ultimate special move, which is so completely insane. It gets its own crazy anime-inspired cutscene where you got the 2 guys kind of looking at each other just going, ah! Ultimate Muscle is also incredibly fast, blazingly, mind-numbingly fast. The whole game is extremely timing-based, so you really have to be careful about timing your attacks, because even being off by a quarter split second will basically give your enemy the opportunity to just start throwing a flurry or a barrage of attacks at you, and that's pretty unescapable when that happens. The enemy AI is also really, really tough, almost surprisingly so, because it's just, it's a game, it's based on a cartoon, you'd think kids would be way into it, but it's a hard game, and it takes a lot of time to master all the combos and techniques that, are available in the game. There's 3 basic gameplay modes in Ultimate Muscle. There's a standard versus mode, which is just, pick a match, go up against computer or your friends. You can do either single, tag, 3 or 4 person battle royals. There's a tournament mode where you can do either single or tag, up to 16 different characters can play. The only real problem with Ultimate Muscle is that it can get a bit repetitive, especially during the story mode, when you're trying to unlock stuff and basically having to go through and play with everybody. The fighting system isn't especially deep, so you'll find yourself kind of just generally hitting as many grapple buttons and jump attacks as you possibly can, just to kind of beat the guy as fast as possible. It's it kind of gets old after a while, but thankfully the multiplayer is a lot more fun than just kind of playing around by yourself. So it's not really a knock against it. It's just that there isn't as much to it as compared with other Aki wrestling games. The game's story mode is set up in such a way so that basically each character has their own storyline. Though that is the case, all the stories are basically the same. Every character basically gets the same 5-match progression in the story mode, starting with 2 single matches, going to a tag match, then like a sub-boss battle and a boss battle. You can also unlock a number of different characters in the game through the story mode and through some of the other side modes. The game also has a create a wrestler feature that is basic, but has some cool features you can play around with. Clearly the best thing about Ultimate Muscle is how it looks. The game has its really own unique style of cel shading compared with all the other cel shading games out there. It's a lot brighter. The textures all look a lot shinier and just basically a lot smoother. Everything in the game animates super good. There are no real notable frame rate hitches or any problems really to speak of graphically. There are some clipping issues here and there, but it's nothing that hasn't been seen in any of the other Aki games. So it's in fact, in many ways, it's better than most of the other Aki games. So it's really not that big of a deal. The whole look of the game is just really solid and like more than solid. It's actually quite excellent and really is a lot fun to look at. The other really impressive thing about the game is the voice work. All the characters have their original voice talents from the TV show, the American version of the TV show. And they all do a good job with the script that they're given. It's real easy for someone to take something like this and just kind of, deadly read the lines without any real, emotion behind it. But it sounds just like the show. They do a good job with it, and it's really well done. There's some commentary in the game done by the 2 commentators from the show. There isn't much to it. They kind of repeat some of the same phrases over and over again, but I mean, the whole point of the commentary is not really to give anything in depth. It's more just to kind of be there for atmosphere, and it does that quite well. The in-game effects are all basically what you would expect, a lot of cartoony kind of slams and groans and guys just going, rah, but it works well for what it's supposed to do, and it's all quite enjoyable. In the end, I mean, Ultimate Muscle is really just a very, very fun game. It takes, the arcade style of wrestling and does a pretty good job of, speeding it up and just kind of making it really crazy and frantic, to match the style of the action of the show. If you're looking for a wrestling simulation game, don't buy Ultimate Muscle because it's not that. But if you're just looking for some, simplistic arcade action, that with some tough AI and just, a really pretty graphic design, you need not look any further than Ultimate Muscle because the game is perfect for what you want.